Good evening. I'm Dan McDermott. This is the McDermott Report. We're broadcast live at 8 p.m. on Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific on weeknights. Glad to have you aboard. If you'd like to join the discussion tonight, you're more than welcome to do so. Our number is 818-688-6625. We'd love to have you aboard. And if you want to get a list of topics and follow along live as we do the show, you can always find them on my Google Plus page. That address is gplus.to/McDermott. That's gplus.to/McDermott. And you can follow along. My guest tonight is the lovely and talented Pulitzer Prize winning, but not yet, Emily Williams. Emily, welcome.
Hi, Dan. Great to be here.
I just promoted you. She's a senior political writer for the Lynchburg Times, and it's always great to have her aboard. I want to start with, we've got a lot of stuff, but before we kill the ratings with our debt crisis update, I got a couple personal notes. First of all, I'm pleased to announce I have lost, this is a picture of my bathroom scale about an hour ago. If you're looking at the live stream, I have lost 20 pounds. I'm at 160.0, so I had to take a picture of that. And anyway, that's exciting. I was at 180 when I started out. Basically, as I've been talking about, I'm just eating stuff that grew that way. A lot of fruits, meat, vegetables, no junk in a box. And there's really, Emily, we've talked about this before, there really is no financial interest in promoting those things. There's financial interest in promoting the new box, the new and improved, larger size, better value, more salt, blah, 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 crap at a box, which you're not really designed to eat. I think a lot of it is how many ingredients you eat. You think there's anything to that? Like, if you eat, your body's designed to process 1 or 2 ingredients, and if you have 17 ingredients, it just, I don't know. Maybe it's not designed for that. I'm not a scientist.
I think that one thing that you get with boxed meals is a lot of added calories that you're not aware of. And, yeah, there's stuff in there that your body, doesn't like to digest. And you don't empty calories. That's the big word that everyone likes to use. So,
and a lot?
Yeah, we stay away from processed foods at home as much as possible.
A lot of it, I think, is they've just gotten better at making stuff taste good. And, I mean, like Stouffer's lasagna. I can't imagine how many calories it has, but I can eat the big one right there. And you're still hungry afterward. It's just loaded with, carbs and salt, and it's absolutely delicious. Love it. And your body's just not designed to eat that, But they've come a long way from the Swanson TV dinner when I was a child, before your parents were probably born. But anyway, so that's my update on my diet. There's my feet again, 160 pounds, baby. All right. Okay. Also, I noticed, just as a side note, Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, have you noticed on Google Plus, he signed up, and I don't think he's publicly following anybody, right? But he's got more people following him than anybody else on Google Plus. And Mark Zuckerberg's the guy they're trying to kill at Google. They hate each other, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think everybody's just waiting to see if he is going to post something. I think I actually added him to my circles, and yeah, just to see. I feel like when Mark Zuckerberg finally gives up on Facebook and defects to Google, that's where it will happen.
Yeah, he's got, he doesn't show anybody in his circles. He's got 330,000 plus people following him. I remember when Conan was on Twitter and he wasn't following anybody, and then he just picked somebody at random, some girl, and his PR people called her and said, we're going to follow, Conan O'Brien's going to follow you on Twitter, and are you prepared for this? Is this okay? And she's like, sure, whatever. Some 19-year-old kid. And so they did it, and then, of course, she got all the, thousands of followers on Twitter. And then she was like, well, I'm going to start a charity to use my newfound fame or something. I don't even remember her name now. But I thought that was neat. Maybe they could have a contest on Facebook to be the person he's encircled on Google+. Maybe there could be some sort of prize. Maybe, huh?
It sounds like they're going to start verifying celebrity accounts. They probably will see more famous people on there. So I know a ton of people follow. Will Wheaton has a lot of followers, as does Ben, and I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but it's H-U-H. He's the founder of the I has cheeseburger site with all the cats and stuff. So, yeah, it's almost the demographics on Google Plus are really interesting right now. There's a lot of techies and internet nerds on there, so we'll see if it changes.
I'm going to. I'm trying to cut out the thumbnail. I've got this issue. I want to be a partner on YouTube. I don't care about the money because you don't make any money. I mean, you make a little bit, I guess, but and I'm already approved for monetization of all the videos, and I think I make a couple bucks a month or something. I guess that'll grow, but I want to be able to choose my thumbnail because the thumbnail from last night, apparently I updated it, but it's still showing on mine. I'm gonna put a picture of it up here. It's really, really funny. We could almost like figure a name for it. Save as. I'm trying to do this as I talk, but I look like one of Saddam Hussein's sons. Dan Thumb. I apologize. I should have done this earlier, but Wirecast crashed on me again, and I'll edit this shot and I'll bring in this picture. But yeah, I look really bad. I look like I've been shot in the back, I think. Something like that. And I'm trying to, but with a partnership on YouTube, you have the you're allowed to choose your thumbnail. And I want that. I want that ability. Let's see here. Are you watching, Emily?
I am.
All right,
actually,
here you
go. I've seen the thumbnail for it, and I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, it obviously caught you like mid-sentence, but.
This one on the screen now? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I don't think it's that bad. Oh, horrible.
I've got this Silik, who's this nutty lawyer friend of mine, right? He's awesome. And he's all like, dragnet. And then here I am. I've just been shot in the back and need a lawyer. I don't know. But anyway, so I hit all the important stuff. And I am going to talk tonight about, I got hacked. Not hacked. There was fraud involved in my Sprint account, which we'll talk about. But anyway, again, if you'd like to join our conversation, you're more than welcome to do so. The number is 818-688-6625. Just give us a call. We'll put you in. You can rant and rave or compliment my feet from my picture or whatever you want to do. Okay, so the debt crisis, the ratings killer. If you want to go pee or something, go do that and come back if you're not interested in this. But I guess they met tonight. He met separately. President Obama met separately with Democrats and then Republican leaders in the House and Senate. Speaker Boehner and his beloved Eric Cantor, who he just can't get enough of. And it looks like this Gang of Six proposal is the new thing that's going to, I don't even really know. What's your take on it? What do you think is going to happen? Are they going to raise the debt ceiling? And I'm surprised. The poll is like 60% of Americans don't want the debt ceiling raised, and most Americans don't believe that it's going to be the Armageddon that the Democrats describe, and rich people like Warren Buffett describe, that the world will come to an end if we don't raise the debt ceiling. What's your take thus far?
Well, it looks like, I mean, the biggest problem now is coming up with enough votes. And, polls are polls. And I hate relying on polls for data on stuff like this, especially an issue. I mean, this is really an issue that we as a general public don't understand well enough. And, that's why we elect people to understand it for us. It's tricky and it's hard economics, and, it's a tough issue to wrap your head around. And no one really knows exactly what's going to happen because, it's in the future, so it's all predictions and whatnot. But it sounds right now like the fallback plan, if this doesn't go through, is that Obama somehow would have to raise it himself as the president, which is not something that normally happens, but that, they're making it sound like he'd have to do that to prevent our country from, losing all status economically in the world. And I think that's really, if the members, if people in the Senate are actually, and the House are in the Congress are looking to use Obama to pass this so as to preserve themselves politically because they're, too afraid with, this harsh political climate to take a stand and say, no, this is what needs to happen for our country. I mean, I think that's a shame. And that seems to be the issue to me. This is not the first time, obviously, that we've had to raise the debt ceiling, and it's just, I think it's complex. I think a lot of people don't really understand what's going on, and I know I certainly don't understand every in and out of it, and I've been trying to follow it. So
there was some congressman on TV. This was hysterical. He was saying that it's not as big a deal as they say, and there was some CNBC, one of these talking heads, and she's like, that's catastrophic. The world will come to an end, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, I don't think it will. And she's like, well, do you have a degree in economics? And he says, well, yes, I do, with honors. And then she moved on to something else. I guess she had her bluff call, but that was pretty cool. Did you see the tape of Wendy Murdoch beating the hell out of this guy who attacked her husband in the hearing?
I did. I did.
That was awesome.
I think that it was possibly the most exciting thing that happened during that hearing.
Oh, I thought it was great. Did you watch the whole thing or parts of it or what? Okay, because we did. I was glued to the TV. I thought it was bad at first for the Murdochs. I mean, I thought clearly James was trying to take over, and Rupert was not performing well in the beginning. It was like cringingly bad, but then I thought he kind of got a second wind, and he did okay at the end. I think he sincerely regrets what happened. I don't think he ever approved any of that. I think he was done a disservice by the camera angle because it kind of cut his eyes out. You just saw his glasses and this old guy in a nice suit, hunched over at this table. And, it was something else. What's your take on it real quick? What do you think? What's your perception of Rupert Murdoch?
Well, I think that, I think that he's really old, and I think that he's not as hands-on as he used to be. And I think that would probably be the best defense for him in this situation. But I actually read a really great article written by one of the folks over at the Poynter Institute, which is a group that studies journalism, essentially. But he was saying that comparing what was happening at News of the World, what happened at News of the World, to other instances of corruption, including Enron, or a better example I think he used was the New York Times with, I'm blanking on his name at the moment, Jason Blair, the infamous New York Times reporter that made up all of his stories. And the point that the guy who wrote this article's name is Steve Myers, and the point that he was making is that all of this comes down to corruption, that all of the questions that really need to be asked are why the higher-ups didn't pick up on it. Like, how many people just turned their heads to what was going on, and, just the fact that stuff like that can happen, means that everyone essentially is responsible. And that there's just a lot of tough questions that need to be asked that aren't being asked. Like, how do you not ask where your reporters got their information from? If they're pulling these really personal, information from, as many people as they did, where were the editors, where were the managers, where were the ombudsmen to say, what's going on here? So, I think what it really boils down to is this whole phone hacking and News of the World case is going to be a great case study for journalism majors in the future. I can hear courses, I can hear my old professors in my head just talking about it already. So, I'm sure that hopefully this will be a live and learn situation for the media business.
Did you you want to skip to did you check out any of the allegations and stuff about the misogyny and Rebecca Brooks, who was editor of the CEO of News International and former editor of the News of the World, resigned. The one with this gigantic redhead, and now that she's gone, some of her staffers are spilling their guts to the other tabloids up there, and I guess just stuff like if there was a woman that they were discussing and there was any question about her sexual life, then she should be referred to as a tart or tawdry, or just kind of the stuff that the British tabloids are famous for, I guess. But I guess this happens. The king's or queen's gone, and people will speak ill of her after she leaves. But she doesn't seem to. She doesn't seem to be somebody I'd want to work for.
Yeah, it's true. And, everything that I pulled from all those stories that are coming out now, I mean, it really comes down to the fact that this paper and these other papers that are mentioned, I think they mentioned the Sun as another one, they're obviously more, much, much, much more focused on making money than they are producing quality journalism, which I suppose is the definition of a tabloid almost. But it's a shame, and you've got to wonder whether or not that started in the paper or if that came from above. And I guess that would be the point at which, Murdoch gets pulled in. If he was able to create an atmosphere in the newsroom that, was not focused on quality journalism. Although I would argue that, as much of a hands-on manager as he says he is, he's probably way out of the loop on stuff that's background for. So I don't know. I mean, it's a tough one, but yeah, this is definitely one of the problems when you have large corporations managing newspapers, and it always has been. And you can argue as much as you want that without, media moguls like Rupert Murdoch, that the newspaper business or, any media would just go under. But, it worked in the past without them, I suppose. And there's some papers that are doing all right without large corporations. So it's a give and take, I guess.
Just to remind folks, if you'd like to join our conversation, you can call now 818-688-6625. And you can also go to my Plus profile if you'd like to follow along with the topics we're discussing and see some links to these stories. That is gplus.to/McDermott. Okay. The Twitter, were you glued to Twitter? What do you think about the presidential candidate, the Republican presidential candidates having a sort of a Tea Party debate on Twitter? But they're actually, when President Obama did it, it was basically a televised, the president answering questions that were previously tweeted to him. This was a case of actually, and Bachman was getting into it. Is this a wonderful use of new technology to reach voters that are traditionally by choice removed from the process, or is this a stupid gimmick? What do you think?
Well, I had a lot of hope for when I first heard about the Obama Twitter town forum. I was really hopeful that he was actually going to respond to the tweets, in hopes of keeping him really succinct and to the point, which is a little difficult for our president, we all know. But after seeing what came out of the Republican debate that just happened, I mean, really, the responses that were given, being limited on space, just turned into really distilled rhetoric. From what I heard, I mean, there wasn't a lot of new ideas presented. There weren't a lot of solutions presented. It was all just very, like the federal government kills jobs! ! Which Rick Santorum tweeted in response to whether or not a president can create jobs without expanding the role of the federal government. I mean, that's not an answer to that question,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of BS. There's a lot of BS on both sides, and with this whole Twitter thing, one side of me says if you're so removed from the process that the only way you get your information is through 140 character PR spin tweets, then you probably have no business voting anyway. But then the other, if the other side of that is if it causes some young folks to ask questions and think about things and do some more research, that's a good thing. But yeah, it's just a a PR spin contest, in my opinion, and completely destructive to the English language, just furthering the destruction that all of these things have done. I don't know. I'm not a big. I mean, I don't see where it contributes much. We'll see, but I think they've learned from the first one, where it was just a TV opportunity for him and a PR stunt for the president, just to go on and on about different topics that were tweeted to him. So I guess this was a true Twitter debate, where it wasn't simply, another video session where questions were submitted via Twitter. So Happy Days cast members apparently sued CBS. This is going back a while, back to the days when Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley were the top two shows on television, and CBS ruled the ratings. I guess they were suing over merchandising, lunchboxes or figurines or what have you, posters, and they weren't getting paid for it allegedly, and they sued, and CBS said, well, we're working with them, and blah. This is a PR disaster. I mean, who wants to pick on the Happy Days cast? These I don't think any of them have any work now. Of course, we're talking, what, 30, how many years? 70s? 40 years ago? 35 years ago? And this reminds me of the school choir. I think it was a boys' choir that performed on the Pink Floyd song, Brick in the Wall. They did that, we don't need no education. And they sued because I think they got like $150 a piece, or I forget, but it was some small thing, and they didn't get what they were supposed to get. And they sued, and they finally settled with EMI Studios, or won, and that was only a few years ago. And I don't know why these companies let these suits go on. It just seems like maybe these suits happen all the time, and just some of them make the news, and we don't hear about the other ones. I don't know. Do you have a take on this?
Well, I should throw in that they got. The punchline to this is they got a lot less money than what they were asking for. It came out to about $6,000 a person when they were originally seeking $10 million. Not a person, but altogether. So I think that, this is kind of like the almost the predecessor to what happened in the writer's strike when, was it 2 or 3 years ago, when the Writers Guild realized that they weren't getting paid for online content. And this really is, more of an old school case of that. But, you also got to look at the fact that it probably went on for so long because there probably weren't a ton of resources piled into it. 2 of the big members of Happy Days are definitely still working, being Ron Howard and Henry Winkler. But the rest of them, a lot of them are, much older, and, it might have just carried on for that long because possibly CBS was just trying to have them give it up, which is sad. And it's sad that, Tom Bosley is dead now, too, so he didn't even live long enough to see it come to fruition. So, it's kind of a sad case. And, CBS doesn't want to, alienate people who like Happy Days, because that's the majority of their viewers, from what I've heard. So,
I agree. Yeah, it's we'll see. I think I guess Ron Howard isn't suing because, of course, he's fabulously wealthy he makes movies, and I think Henry Winkler. They were the 2 big stars, along with the late Tom Bosley. But really, it was Ronnie Howard or Ron now, and Henry Winkler, the Fonz. And I think he had a separate deal and got paid or something. So they're working that out. We'll see how that goes. All right, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau starts tomorrow to enforce rules. I've already seen some from the laws that they passed. Have you noticed that free checking is going away? They're back. I guess in the 80s, everyone introduced free checking to get people. And I know some people I've talked to are switching accounts to a different bank to avoid having to pay for it. I guess we were the bank that doesn't charge for business accounts. But we probably have enough in there to not get the fees because the minimums aren't that high. And anyway, but I've noticed that's one negative effect is free check is going away because they can't. The stupid thing where if you screwed up your balance and they would let the charge go through and then charge you $30 or whatever. And now it just, if you try to use your debit card and there's nothing in there, it just doesn't go through and there's no foul. So it seems, I mean, that's far preferred to me. But this Protection Bureau is going to go in, and he has, President Obama has nominated former Ohio Attorney General Richard Cordray, and the Republicans say they're not going to confirm him. And without a director, of course, Elizabeth Warren was sort of the interim set the agency up person, but she's hated by a lot of Republicans, and she may actually run against Scott Brown in Massachusetts for the U.S. Senate. That'll be an interesting race. But anyway, they're supposed to start, but there are certain things they can't do without a director. They can't really enforce rules, that sort of thing. So there's a great AP story here. And again, if you check out my Plus page, gplus.to/McDermott, I've got links to these stories we're talking about. But I remember the Republicans were like, oh, this is awful. This is burdensome new regulation, job killing, blah, blah, blah. So I'm actually looking at it, right, at actually what this will do. And I don't disagree with any of this. One of the things on mortgage costs, the true cost of a mortgage will become easier to understand. That's because less paperwork and legalese, less of that. A simplified 2-page form that replaced the more complex forms that borrowers currently receive, a final version expected in July. The agency has indicated improving credit card disclosures is a top priority. Working on a tool that will enable consumers to make apples-to-apples comparisons when shopping for cards. Credit scores, responsible for enforcing rules that provide more information to consumers who apply for loans. Credit card loan applicants who are rejected will automatically receive a copy of the credit score used as a basis for that decision. The notice will include detailed information about how the score was calculated and major factors that hurt the score. This all seems like common sense. Consumers will have, for the first time, a single hotline to call to complain about a financial product or service. Mortgages. The agency will enforce a new ban on mortgage brokers receiving kickbacks in exchange for giving borrowers higher cost loans. Because of those kickbacks, this is bad. Because of the kickbacks, some homeowners with strong credit ended up with costly subprime loans that they couldn't afford. Under the new rules, loan applicants will be more likely to receive the lowest rate that they qualify for, and applicants with weak credit might have a harder time getting a loan. Well, that seems to me that that's the way it should be. The agency oversees the credit card industry, enforces zeroed limits on fees and billing practices. With such limits in place, companies can't make money on borrowers who are less likely to repay their debts. Since the rules took effect, consumers with weak credit are receiving fewer card offers despite an increase in the overall volume of mail from credit card companies. None of that seems bad to me. I mean, where's the dangerous... this just seems like common sense stuff that keeps companies from screwing over people who are either not that bright or not that organized to actually read all this stuff. What do you think?
Yeah, and a lot of the things that this group is doing there were a lot of agencies that had these responsibilities. I think the article says it was 6 or 7, a large number that were responsible for all of these duties that are now falling under the new agency. And the biggest problem with that breakup, other than the fact that the more agencies you have doing little things, the less communication there is and the less power they have, is that those agencies, when it was under the different ones, were also responsible for maintaining the profitability and the health of the banking industry, which is where we saw, when everyone gets so angry about the bailouts, that was part of the reason, is that, all of the agencies making the decisions were looking out for the banks instead of looking out for the consumers. And so much of this is what led up to the economic collapse. And I think that, all of this is very much in the consumer's interest. There's even a group that's looking at specifically for military families, and it's being headed up by Holly Petraeus, who's General David Petraeus' wife. So there's a lot of great stuff in this, and I guess I haven't heard I haven't heard strong evidence that this is going to be a job killer. You know, I haven't heard the logic behind that. I've heard a lot of people say it, and I've heard them say it for a long time. But you know, now that the regulations are out and we know what this group is going to do, like I haven't heard why these regulations are going to kill jobs.
Maybe construction jobs. I mean, because every street corner had a bank. The last 10 years, they built new banks everywhere. I don't know, but I don't see. I looked through it, and I don't see anything I disagree with that they're going to do. I say bring it on. This is like calories. You know, you think the companies would put calories and sodium content and all that stuff on packages if they didn't have to? Of course not. Except for like cashew or something that, you know, is actually good for you. The one little section of the grocery store that has stuff that's good for you in frozen foods, they would put the information on there. But I mean, these big companies, you know, they're kicking and screaming, forced into it. People have a right to know if there's monosodium glutamate, which gives probably 20% of people headaches, or if you know, peanut allergies. To know, I mean, that's just as common sense stuff. And if it doesn't affect some little store that's selling something on, you know, the products, you know, from one outlet or something. But if you're Stouffer's, you know, you can afford it. I mean, it doesn't cost that much to do it, and they're so big on consistency anyway that their packages are. I mean, it's easy for them. They probably knew the information anyway. I don't see anything wrong with that. And I'm also for them putting right on the menu boards the calories. I have no problem with that. They're all freaked out about that. But if you're a big chain like McDonald's, tell them how many calories. Don't put it on some poster in the men's room. Give me a break. Oh, we're out of the nutrition things, but you can find it on the web. You know, screw you. I'll go eat somewhere else. So anyway, mini rant. All right.
Yeah, I think this all comes down to regulation, and you know, there is logic behind, you know, fighting against over-regulation, but at the same time, without regulation, you know, that's regulation is one of the good things that the government does, in addition to over-regulating, which is a bad thing. And I just don't think you can demonize all regulation. I think that there needs to be, you know, picking and choosing that goes on. You know, in the same way that if we didn't regulate what, you know, elementary school cafeterias served our children, they might be eating Lord knows what. And, you know, it's all these things. It's a much more complicated issue than all regulation is bad or all regulation is good.
All regulation kills jobs and is evil. I learned that I'm sure they said that in the Twitter debate. A nice short phrase. These burdensome job-killing regulations of small business, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. What
I learned from the Twitter debate is that rhetoric lends itself to 140 characters really easily.
Yes, they're trained in this. Yes. Although I think Michelle Bachmann may be onto something, that the debt ceiling thing, if they don't raise it, it's not going to be the Armageddon that they describe. Okay, so my Sprint account got hacked. I'm going to tell you about this. Here's what happened. I got on my BlackBerry, I got an email from Asurion, anyway, the insurance company that covers Sprint phones. And Sprint, despite generally just atrocious, who cares service, you know, I've ranted about them before. They're really an awful company when it comes to customer service. They could care less about you as a customer. And I wouldn't recommend them, except they're cheaper than the other guys. And anyway, so even though it's an awful, awful company in that respect, they perform well in this case. I got this email from Asurion saying that my thing had been sent, my phone had been shipped, the replacement phone. Well, it looked pretty real, but I figured it was just a phishing scam because I get, you know, like everyone, I get 100 a day. And so I ignored it. It was going from Tennessee to San Diego, California. And for years, I haven't been to either state. So I knew it wasn't me. Anyway, then I got a thing saying that my account, today I got an email from Sprint saying that my account had been, this account had been taken off my account. So I'm like, what is this? So I call and I got some, I don't know, Filipino or Pakistani woman. It wasn't a Filipino because she would have had, Filipino would have spoken a lot better. But whoever I was speaking to, it was hard to explain what I was trying to say. And it turns out she mentioned something, though, about that Sprint security or Sprint fraud had done something with my account. So I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, well, they should have called you. I was like, well, no one's called me. So she transferred me. It was a nice lady. She just didn't have a good command of the English language. And so she transferred me, and then I got an American citizen, a North American speaking person, and she told me this in the fraud department. She explained that what had happened was someone had gotten my, I guess they dial random phone numbers, and then they guess at a PIN, and my PIN was pretty easy to guess, and it's now been changed. But I am what they do, and I was like, well, how do they make money? And what they do is they will scope out how this happened, and they say that the phone's lost. They have my PIN, whatever, and they said enough to believe it. The insurance company believed it, so they sent a replacement phone to this address in San Diego. It's an apartment. I got an email. I went back and looked at the emails now, and it showed me the tracking number for FedEx, and it was from a Syrian office in Tennessee to San Diego to this apartment building, apartment number whatever. So I was asking the lady, I said, well, how do they make money? And how do they get away with it? She said, what they do is they'll hang out in the lot. They know it's FedEx, and they will wait until the FedEx truck shows up. They don't have to get a signature. They'll pick an apartment where they know the person isn't there in the daytime. And then they, or maybe a vacant apartment. But the guy just leaves the FedEx package there with this phone that's worth, I guess, a couple $100. And then they go in and they grab it from the doorstep. And then they have a phone. They sell the phone on eBay. And I said, so that's how they make the money. I said, well, what happens to the guy who buys the phone on eBay? Is he screwed? She said, yeah, because he can't be activated because it's stolen property, even though the guy didn't know it. And she's like, you should never buy a phone on eBay. Because, if you buy a phone that's been stolen through a method like this. And so she's like, well, I said, well, you caught it, right? And she's like, yeah. I said, well, I'm not really a victim because they charged me $100 for the deductible, but then they took it off. And she said, well, it seems that, or I looked, I ran the FedEx, the link to check the status, and the package was delivered yesterday at 11:30 in the morning. Successfully delivered. So I guess somebody got a free phone, and they'll never catch him. So I guess it worked for them. And I'm a victim in that I wasted my time, and that I would assume that my premium for my insurance is higher because they have to pay for these fraud guys. And then this person who's going to end up buying the phone on eBay or whatever method they sell them through, they're going to be a victim because whatever they pay, they're going to lose because you can't activate the phone. So I don't know. Have you ever had anything like this happen? This isn't really identity theft. I guess I don't want to admit liability, but I could have had a more secure, in retrospect, I could have had a more secure PIN. You ever had anything like this happen to you, Emily? Or are you too smart and organized for this?
I haven't, but it just constantly amazes me how con artists can use the internet now. Like, I think they've really mastered the medium. I mean, the amount of scams that go on Craigslist are just incredible, and I feel like they get more refined every day almost. So, yeah, it's not surprising when it happened, and it's not surprising that they're getting away with it. I guess it just means I'm not sure who would buy a phone off of eBay to begin with. I understand, like, with smartphones, they are expensive, and people are probably trying to look for backdoors as much as possible. But, you're not insured for anything, for any damage, and you need to get a plan anyway. It's not like we live in a country where you can, just use your phone all willy-nilly like much of the rest of the world. But I think that going through cell phone companies, unfortunately, is still the only real way to do it. So I don't know. It is obviously working for someone, though.
You think that the whole model where it's like this BlackBerry, which is fairly ghetto by today's standards, but it was all the rage 2 years ago. I think October, about a year and a half ago, this came out. But it's a $500 phone, but you get it for, I think it was $150 or something with a 2-year deal with the awful Sprint. And I think that's the only way that tablets are going to really take off. The ones other than the iPad. The iPad owns the market, but the other ones, and we talked about this last night, it doesn't make any sense to me why you would introduce a competitor to the iPad and charge the same amount of money. Because if all things being equal, I mean, the price being equal, why wouldn't you buy an iPad? If you're fashionable, you'd want the iPad, right? Like you'd want Nike shoes or American Eagle, all that crap. I could care less. This shirt's from Costco. But I could see people looking at the number of apps. What is it, 400 and some thousand, almost 500,000 apps for iOS? And, I mean, I don't know what the BlackBerry playbook has, but it ain't 400 and some thousand. But I think that's the way that if one of these guys makes a deal where it's like $99, if I could get one of these not Android, what's it called? There's the WebOS, or what's the tablet operating system that Google made? Anyway,
I don't know.
if I could get an iPad
Sorry.
competitor for like $99, I'd up, even with the awful Sprint, I would up, I'd redo my thing for 2 years to save $400. What do you think? I mean, would that motivate you if you get one for $100 with a 2-year deal and maybe paid like, $30 a month or something? I don't know. For your service,
Maybe,
I mean,
but I think if I had a tablet, I'd definitely just use it with Wi-Fi. But I wouldn't pay to latch onto a 3G, 4G connection with it. So.
What if your choice was paying $500 and having Wi-Fi, no monthly fee, and owning it outright, or paying $99 and having another $25, $30 added to your cell phone bill and having 3G coverage in addition to Wi-Fi? That's tempting, isn't it?
It is, but I mean, I would still default to the iPad every time. I mean, in the same way that I would never buy a Zune or any of those other fake MP3 players.
Fake. Bill Gates, that's all he has in his house.
I would hope so.
All right, I want to get on this next story. Harry Potter is going to be on Google's platform, not Amazon. And it's interesting. I guess, did you read this one? I sent in the show notes. I don't know if you saw this one, but the Kindle does not support, the Amazon Kindle does not support the Google Open Platform. But it looks like Pottermore is the website soon to launch, owned by J.K. Rowling, who's the author of the books, Janet Rowling. That they're going to release all the Potter books, the ebooks, on this Google Open Books or Google Books platform, so they won't play on a Kindle. I think that's bad for Amazon. I mean, this is the most popular book series in modern times. I mean, this is the biggest thing since Narnia or Lord of the Rings.
Dan, there's actually an update to this article that says that Amazon's working with Pottermore to get a deal so it will be on the Kindle. And with that update in mind, it definitely sounds like they were, giving it to Google Books first in hopes of getting Amazon to pay more money for it. I mean,
yeah, I would be freaking out if I was
think.
Amazon. If I was an Amazon shareholder, I'd be on the phone screaming with shareholder PR people, saying this is outrageous. Pay what you got to pay. We can't have kids for Christmas, because they'll release this for Christmas, right? They'll have a big package deal, all the books, and probably a reader with it. Get your kid reading again, all over again, And with they'll probably have, I'm guessing they'll have extra stuff, just like a DVD. When you actually have the physical DVD, you get like the special features, and they'll probably, I would imagine that she would write some special stuff to go with these ebooks. What do you think? I just sell them all over again? She doesn't have quite enough money yet. She's only the second richest. She hasn't beaten Mrs. Windsor yet. That's what they call her in Northern Ireland or Southern Ireland. Mrs. Windsor. Okay, the Queen. All right. This was a big day for the Kobo reader, and we actually got a comment. The last time you were on, when did we talk about the Kobo reader?
Monday.
Okay, Monday, July 18. There's a bunch of comments here, but one guy, this is from Eric Wilson. He's I think he's our biggest fan. We get comments quite often from him, and we appreciate it. He said, just quick note about the Kobo reader. Since it came up in passing, a good-sized chunk of Kobo is owned by Chapters, a Canadian mega bookstore chain, which is still very much in the black. And as strong as the unit is, as Canadian brick-and-mortar stores, support will probably be solid for a good while. It natively supports EPUB and Adobe Digital Edition, so you won't be totally in the cold if you pick it up, even at Borders fire sale prices. Yes, that's where I got mine. We were discussing the fact that Borders is going to go out of business, 11,000 employees out of work. However, those extended service packs Borders has been selling for e-readers might be worth less than the paper they're printed on. Allegedly, one of the many vendors they've stiffed since the beginning of the year is the third-party warranty company. On that point, buyer beware. Again, we can't verify that, but I can verify that Sprint is lousy when it comes to caring about their customers, but I can't comment on that. But anyway, yeah, that was interesting. I appreciate Eric weighing in on the Kobo, the reigning future reigning champion e-reader. They're neat though. I mean, have you held a Kindle or do you have one? They're light.
Yeah, I don't actually own one. I was surprised at how easy they were to read though. And I think that if I did more traveling, I would definitely look into getting one. But traveling on like a plane, I used to travel a lot. I used to travel to work on the subway when I was living in Boston, and I think that I'd still take a physical book on the subway just to be safe.
I'm reading this next thing. I've held it. I don't know if it was a Kindle or I forget one of them, but I was surprised how cool and lightweight it was, how neat. But there's all these devices, man. I thought the computer was supposed to be the computer was described to me as the only thing the only machine humans have invented that's designed to do more than one thing, and it's true. There was, the cotton gin, the vacuum cleaner. I mean, basically they're designed for a single purpose. The computer is sky's the limit, but we seem to have gone the opposite direction. Now we're using the computer technology, and we're coming with all these different platforms, different e-readers. Really, the more as years go by, the more Star Trek is accurate. The whole laser thing, they're all read off these little tablets, and it's just amazing the prevalence of the cell phone. It looks a lot like and I guess the Nextel, when everyone would be in the grocery store and they'd have their little thing that everyone heard and it was irritating. But that's interesting. Okay, so this is sad news, and I want to get your take on it. But Google Labs, the wonderful thing, because I know you were a big beneficiary after they introduced Google Goggles, which was a way to intercept when you were drunk texting and drunk emailing. I'm just kidding. Emily's not been saved by this. But Google Goggles would say, it appears you're intoxicated. Are you sure you want to send this email or wait till tomorrow and reread it? But they're going to end, I guess this was Larry Page addressing shareholders' concerns that they were dwelling in areas that were not likely to show a profit, but more like playing. And he said, overall, we're focused on long-term absolute profit and growth, as we have always been. It's easy to focus on things that we do that are speculative, such as driverless cars, but we spend the vast majority of our resources on the core products. We may have a few small speculative projects happening at any given time, but we are very careful stewards of shareholder money. We are not betting the farm on this stuff. I think it's kind of sad. There have been some neat things. I think a lot of the products that are popular now started out. Google Maps, Gmail, I think was a Google Labs product for a long time, was in beta. I think Google Docs may still be in beta. Do you have a sadness that this is, it's all about the mighty dollar. Let's just toss it out the window. I thought it was neat. What did you think?
Yeah, it was a little sad to hear about Google Labs closing. I remain optimistic that they will keep working on things, and I know with Plus, of course, they have this big new project that they're, of course, devoting a lot of resources to. But Labs seemed like a place where, new technologies could have a go at it, and it's unfortunate. And hopefully Yeah, hopefully we will still see innovation from them, and they're not just settling. This does kind of sound like they're settling down, buying a house and having a couple kids or whatever.
Just like you and your other half. Just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm always picking on her. We're all excited, waiting for her to have a bunch of babies. But anyway, okay. So I think it's sad to me because I think we have this affection that we have for Google. When I heard Google was doing a social network, I knew it wouldn't be all this BS that Zuckerberg does with Facebook. All these things where he cuts some new thing on, and if you don't want it, you have to cut it off. And that was Leo Laporte's big gripe about him. Just start out with it off and let people turn it on. And as far as some feature that would make some detail public or share with people, with vendors or what have you, I'm all for them making money, but I don't know. It's just sad that it was such a cool thing, and to see that going away, it's almost like he's caving in, selling out to the man or something, I guess. It's sad. I think it's interesting as these people complain, like the feds are on Google's back, right? And saying that, they're showing monopoly characteristics, blah, blah, blah. I think it's nonsense, and they should go after some other target besides Google, which seems to be doing a lot of good and has invented all these wonderful products that are free. And I think if they just shut a few down for a few days, then people and just told them to call the FTC if they don't, if they want their Google Maps back or their Gmail. Can you imagine? Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to get to places or communicate with people anymore if Google shut down for a few days.
I couldn't.
Be horrible.
How could I pepper you with show prep emails? If you lost we could still use our Lynchburg Times emails. All right. Saturday mail delivery. The Postmaster says days are numbered. Is this just? They've come a long way. I remember when I was at Deltec. I was a computer programmer in 93, 94 at Deltec Systems in McLean, Virginia. And I remember reading a story in the Washington Post about the Postal Service going into a company and fining them and confiscating some packages. The way it was is if you're sending mail that doesn't have to be there the next day, by law, it had to go with the U.S. Postal Service. It couldn't go FedEx unless it had to be there the next day. If it was general correspondence, an invoice, that you had to use U.S. Postal Service, you couldn't use UPS overnight if that existed then, or FedEx. So they actually went to this company, did an inspection. I guess someone ratted them out, and they found that in the postal inspector's opinion, some of the correspondence was not a time crucial variety that would have to. I mean, you ever heard of any such nonsense? And they've come a long way. And I know that I know postal workers. Some are great, some are jerks, but most of the ones I've met are very nice. Paid well. I know one of my ex-girlfriends, her dad earned 6 figures walking around. Postal Service employee of probably 30 years or so. But he walked around. And he was making $100,000 plus a year, plus the benefits and stuff. So they were paid well, I guess. But it's sad, he's talking about like 3-day-a-week service. That would seem shocking 10 years ago, but today I can kind of, I don't know. I guess it wouldn't seem as shocking. What do you think?
Well, I think cutting Saturday service makes sense. If they're actually losing as much money as they say they are, I'd much rather them do that than all of a sudden show up next year and say, "Hey, we're bankrupt and we need a bailout," or what have you. So, I also think that the cutting down to 3 days a week is his prediction for in 15 years from now, which is a long amount of time. I mean, I'd be surprised to see that happen if it actually does. But then again, 15 years from now, maybe everything will be over the internet, and the only thing you'll get in the mail is like actual physical stuff, and not letters and whatnot. So, who knows?
All right. So moving from, I guess, I'll make, I don't know what kind of segue to use, but this guy went postal on President Obama. He was convicted. He said Obama will have a 50 cal in the head soon, and I guess someone should shoot the insert racist slur. He was convicted 2 years ago of making threats against a major presidential candidate, and he posted the comments on a Yahoo.com financial website on October 22nd, 2008. And a federal appeals court has just said that while our law punishes words, they overturned his conviction. While our law punishes words, or when our law punishes words, we must examine the surrounding circumstances to discern the significance of those words' utterance, but must not distort or embellish their plain meaning so that the law may reach them. It said the 2-to-1 ruling. What do you think? I don't know. How do you? There's a big difference between posting something online and Lee Harvey Oswald. I guess it's somebody should kill him is okay, but let's all get together and kill him isn't. I mean, you know what I mean? I don't know what. I don't know where you draw that line. What do you think? It's kind of the one thing someone should shoot him, I guess, if he's saying, I'm going to shoot him, or, I don't know. I mean, if it could be taken seriously, like a call to action versus just something in passing, like, someone should shoot that guy, which someone might say all the time watching TV. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like through the context that they made the right decision. And, this obviously got looked at pretty closely. I think it's good that it got picked up on, because that means that people are following and looking for things like that. But when I read this, my first reaction was to look back on let's see, I don't remember what year, but post Columbine, when the schools had such a crackdown on security. And kids were getting expelled for saying things like, or suspended for saying things like, I'm going to kill you to one of their classmates. This guy essentially went online and said, someone should kill the president. And, he did get pulled in for it, and it did get looked at, which I guess is great that it got found. But at the same time, you wonder, where that line is. The racist remarks, I think, are almost more, the calls for assassination. But, that was just my take on it.
I think that's I don't know. It's interesting. I think they made the right call. I think if you say, I think there's a difference between let's all get together at 3:00 and drive to D.C. and shoot somebody. That's a call to action. A flippant, I hate the guy, someone should kill him, or he's, his day's coming or something. That's not really a call to action that would be taken seriously as a threat. But I think, that the authorities do their job, right? They're hard on it, and as they should be, especially at that point, because, I mean, there was a lot of hatred toward the guy, and it looked like, when he was becoming apparent that he was going to clean McCain's clock, a lot of folks were privately saying, gee, I wonder, is he going to make it or whatever. I know there was one newspaper that in Georgia, and I talked to the guy about it, but they wrote an article about white supremacists, and it was an article. It was a well done, nice article, but I mean, it was interesting. But it was just doing a story about these white supremacists who wished ill will on the president, or the candidate Obama, but they used a poor choice in cover art. They had a picture of Obama, and they had him in crosshairs of a gun right on the cover. And I mean, I talked to this guy, and he's like, if you read the article, it wasn't like that. We weren't advocating it. It was actually an expose on these crazy people. and we just made a mistake with the cover art. We were trying to illustrate that these guys have Obama in their crosshairs. That was what the story was about. But I mean, this poor guy, he said his advertisers were getting like 100 calls a day. This is in Georgia. And he said he's never experienced anything like it. It's the biggest mistake he's ever made. He was like, oh my God. I mean, it was unbelievable. But can you imagine your customers getting calls from across the country organized by liberal groups? But yeah, I mean, it was an honest mistake, you know, and they didn't read the article, but still, it was bad choice for cover. And but that was an interesting story. I talked to the guy, and he's like, man, it was just wow, awful situation. All right, 2 fun stories. A desert sheikh has carved his name. This is an argument why we should have electric vehicles and stop giving the Arabs money for oil. He's carved his name. He's a billionaire sheikh. See if I can pronounce he's in Abu Dhabi. Sheikh Hamad bin Hamdan Al Nahyan. His name is 2 miles across. Hamad. You can see it from space. The H and the A are made up of into waterways. He's 63 years old. He's a member of the ruling family of Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. His fortune is 14 billion pounds. It's about $20 billion, making him second only to the Saudi king. He has a fleet of more than 200 cars, including 7 Mercedes, 500 SELs painted in different colors of the rainbow. His fleet of 200 cars is housed in a custom-built pyramid. I think they have enough of our money. What do you think? We're sitting here. I could put a job. We'll put a job up for $8-9 an hour. We'll get 100 calls here in Lynchburg. And this guy is I don't know. This is just mind-numbing. I guess it's his money. We're stupid and we give it to him. We've had alternatives for over a century, and we just keep giving him money. I don't know. You going to trek out to the United Arab Emirates and check this out, Emily, on your next vacation? You go on vacation a lot.
It looks like a fun place to go kayaking. I wonder if you're allowed to kayak on his private island in his name, literally.
Well, it's a couple miles. You could probably do a nice kayak up until about the I. It gets a little rocky. The H and the A are smooth sailing, and then the I. If you look, I have a link on my Google Plus, but I don't have rights to the picture, so I can't show it. Or YouTube will freak out and I'll get sued by the son of all people. Then Rupert will really be mad at me. But anyway, I thought that was funny. And then the final story. This is great. This is from The Guardian, the dangerous left-wing newspaper. Supporters of the. Anyway, that's the current argument because they were attacking News of the World. A great white shark jumps from sea onto a research boat. Marine researchers had a narrow escape after a 3-meter-long great white breached the surface of the sea and leapt onto their boat, becoming trapped on the deck for more than an hour. The incident occurred while the research team was conducting a shark population study. I guess they got one down. Using sardines as bait to attract the predators, the 7-strong crew was able to observe 4 great whites. The animals are renowned locally for bursting through the surface as they prey on seals. Apparently this thing was, the next thing I know, I heard a splash and I see a white shark breach the water from the side of the boat, hovering literally over the crew member who was throwing food bait on the port side. And she pulled her colleague to safety before the shark, which weighed about 1,000 pounds, landed on top of the bait and fuel containers. At first, half of its body was outside the boat, but in a panic, the shark thrashed its way further up onto the vessel, cutting the fuel lines and damaging equipment before being trapped between the containers and the stern. The crew found safety at the bow of the... Can you imagine, Emily? Captain, we have an issue.
I can't. And I worked on a tall ship that was also, it was steel hulled and did a lot of research. And every once in a while we'd catch like a mahi or, a fish that, was pretty big. And by pretty big, I mean 2 to 3 feet long, maybe, and everyone would freak out. And I mean, we're talking like a 130-foot boat, and once it was on deck, it was a huge thing. So I can't imagine a shark being on deck. And I've been looking everywhere to find out how large this vessel was, and I can't find it, because I can't imagine what a half-ton shark would do to your boat. I mean, hopefully they were able to make it in safe, it sounds like, but man, that's quite the experience.
Yeah, that's wow. That's a whole thing, you know. I guess they had an interesting story to tell when they got home. Hey, a great white shark landed on the, for half an hour. We were, and I guess is it a protected species? I mean, can you like hack away at it, or do you have to like carefully remove it? Don't hurt the shark. Oh my God,
well,
I can't imagine.
They were ocean researchers. I can't imagine that they would cut it away from the boat. I mean, they were there studying it, so I mean, I think they ended up treating it like a breached whale, didn't they? I mean, it was a beached whale. They were just like putting water on it until it could get back in. I don't know. That would be a crazy story to put in your memoir.
I wouldn't be lingering on the side of the boat after they let it loose. Wow, that's a whole thing. That's a whole story to tell. All right. Anything other? Any dying stories you want to unleash?
Nope. I think that's good for me.
Awesome. Emily Williams, senior political writer for the Lynchburg Times. You can check out her work at lynchburgtimes.com. Newspaper serving Lynchburg City in Virginia and the surrounding counties. Good little paper. I'm the publisher. She's the senior political writer. And then you can always catch episodes of this. The best way to find our show, we're on iTunes and everything. All the links to the Blog Talk Radio and Ustream and YouTube are on my Google Plus page, gplus.to/McDermott. Go to the About section on the right. You can see all that. I'm working on a new page because that's a pretty ghetto way, www.ht. But that is an effective way to get it. Emily, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And folks, for watching, you're always welcome to join us. The number is 818-688-6625. You can call and just listen on your phone if you're in your car and you've reached the end of the radio and you just want to listen on the phone. And then if you want to join the conversation, just press 1. It'll put you in the call queue and you can talk with us. Okay, doke. Thanks so much, folks. We appreciate it. Y'all have a wonderful day. And Emily and I will be back tomorrow.